I was 8 years old. It was the Christmas nativity play. I didn't get to play Mary. I didn't even get a costume. But I had a special part. I was the narrator. In reality, it was a bit of a continuity announcer to allow time for set and scene changes and costume changes backstage. We got to the final dress rehearsal in front of the full school. The full school. Slightly more terrifying than an actual performance in front of parents who, let's face it, want you to do well. So, the final scenes were nearly upon us. And I skipped a line. Just one line. But it was a very important line. It was the line that signaled to the backstage team to open the curtains for the final scene. So, they didn't. I carried on. We got to the end. The curtains opened. There was applause. I could feel the eyes of the entire cast burning into the back of my neck. My cheeks burned. My eyes filled with tears. They had missed their entire final scene because I had failed. Nowadays, they'd call it an epic fail. These things can really shape you as a young person. I might not have gone back for the final performance. I might never have spoken in public again. Even worse, my teacher might have decided to get somebody else to do it. I had failed. I still remember how it made me feel. Embarrassed at getting it wrong, and shamed. Shame because I had let down the group of people I worked with. In my work, I find it really interesting to see how we teach young people to learn how to cope with failure. For me, there is a real culture of shame, particularly around failure in Northern Ireland, and it's something that we need to challenge. When I was talking about how we cope with this with a colleague in Finland, she said, "But why do you call it failure? It's just learning." It was a moment that maybe really made me stop and think. She was right. It wasn't necessarily failure, it was just learning. But it made me realize that the vocabulary and the language that we use around failure really forms our culture and reactions to it. It is within our gift to do something about that. We can create a culture that will allow our young people to learn, to experience failure, and to learn how to come back from it. I find that in Finland, they have a day for failures. Every October, it was set up a decade ago, and it was created for the purpose of people to share their failures on social media, to share them so that they could be used as learning experiences. Famous people talk about failures they have had and how they have learned. They have created a language of learning. I was slightly more surprised to hear at a recent conference that NASA has an award for failure. Now, NASA is a sort of organization that I would have expected would seek perfection at all points. But they do indeed have a Smart Fail award under the innovation category. Because NASA have recognized that you cannot create a culture that seeks innovation and creativity if you don't allow some space for a level of failure. I read the award criteria because, yes, there are criteria, and in the criteria it talks about productive and unproductive failures. Productive failures are the ones they are looking for, where people have taken the failure and learnt from the experience to go forward and to do better next time. They've created a language of learning. It's within our gift to do this. It's within our gift to create that language and culture of learning around failure for our young people. To create an environment where we can coach them and provide them with feedback, where they learn not to fear feedback, but actively seek it. To understand that feedback, when it is given with good intent, can truly be a gift. I find that many people, as they move through their careers, often start to understand this and really take on board the concept of coaching. Maybe it's because we've got a bit older and we're slightly less worried about what people think of us. But when they undertake coaching, they start to seek out feedback and gain great personal development. They listen to others and they learn and they grow. What a gift it would be if we could support our young people to start their careers with this sort of a mindset. As parents, as managers, as leaders, let's work to create a culture where we learn from those failures. Certainly, we want to help young people to strive to achieve challenging goals and to stretch themselves. But a true part of that is also making sure that they have the capacity to learn when it doesn't go to plan and to do better next time. To help them make their failures become productive. For me, as a parent, that means that I'm trying to learn to work with my children on how they approach different exams and tests that they undertake. What I want them to do is to be able to view a test as an opportunity to test their learning, which is what it's really meant to do. It's not meant to be just about the score. To let them learn how do they use it to identify the gaps in their knowledge so that they can go back and understand where they need to focus. To help them learn their strengths and weaknesses. We're preparing young people for a world that is constantly changing. We know the often quoted statistics that many of the jobs that they will be in have not yet been created. They will change different career paths. They will move into different sectors. They will constantly need to learn and adapt. I find often as adults, we present this uncertain future in a way that can create fear for the young people. Instead, let's think about how do we create that culture where they can learn and adapt and know how to improve. When I think back of the young people that I've worked with over the years, the ones that have gone on to the greatest success were not the ones that got all the wins and the awards. They were the ones that had failures and challenges and turned those into productive failures. When they didn't win an award, they went and asked for feedback. Why did we not? What criteria did we not meet? They took advice from their business mentors. They heard the feedback that the customers were giving them through selling or not selling. They heard that information and they converted it into learning. They have learned. They made the most of their dress rehearsals. As for me, I did go back. I did do the final performance in school. I faced that failure. My teacher worked with me to understand that lines aren't just for learning to say back. They serve a purpose, and they had a cue, so I needed to understand the purpose beside them. My mother, who's from this very city, worked with me to practice until I was confident and able to go back on stage. I was fortunate that I had a network of people around me to support me and help me learn to ensure that that failure became a productive one. It meant I was able to turn that bad dress rehearsal into a great performance, to reestablish the relationship with my friends, and also learn that the worst could happen and I could recover. It's time for us to change our relationship with failure. Let's use that vocabulary to build a language so that failures can be used productively. Let's create that culture of support around everybody at school and in the workplace to encourage feedback and learning. Let's recognize the failures and move forward. Just imagine what we could achieve then.